Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool Bally Supersonic Pinball repair video for you this evening. We've basically turned our channel into a supersonic repair channel. That's all we do now, it seems like. Hopefully we'll get to some of these other ones soon. But this one, on the previous video, we actually got up and running. It's playing. We knocked out a bunch of the little minor stuff that it still needed. We still got some cosmetic stuff to do, obviously. But the thing I wanted to do in this video is there is no soundboard, or no working soundboard. So I'll show you what we got going on. She's working. Everything's cool. Well, I thought it was. What happened? Well, now we got other things to fix, okay? So the kicker's not working for some reason. I think that has to be the coil down there. It can't be the switch, because I think that's a nice spinner. Whew. I think the ball will shoot out on the first ball even if the switch doesn't work. So anyway, everything's cool, I believe, except I guess the out-hole kicker. Oh, counts down our bonus. And it won't kick the ball out. Alright, something's going on with that. We'll figure it out. But I want to mess with the soundboard, because you hear how it's not making any noise, right? Well, that's horrible. It's a crime against pinball nature for there to be no sound. So we got to mess with that. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the soundboard, because there's no way it'll work, and I'll show you why, right? So let me remove it. We'll put it on the test bench. And then we're going to have to do some serious, significant repair work to it to get it to work. But I got my fingers crossed. Alright, there are 3 coils that stopped working. That saucer isn't working. That god-awful knocker isn't working. That thing's crazy loud. And the out-hole kicker isn't working. Everything else is. So, whatever that means. Alright folks, so here is the soundboard. It is a Bally AS2518-32. That's the part number. And you can see that this particular design was made in December of '78. I believe they had another one before this that wasn't... Let me think. Maybe this was the first one. But that 2518-32 is what this is called. So it's called the -32 soundboard. There is another one that's a -49. I think there's a -56. But I may just be making up numbers in my head. And so as they progress, they made a new revision. So there's a... Let's see. This one has 2 potentiometers on it. I think one of them had 3 potentiometers on it. To control something else. And... then they moved on to ones that had large EPROMs on them, and the EPROMs were used, to keep code, basically. So we're going to do some special stuff with this one. If you didn't see the previous videos on this particular machine, the 5-volt was shorted to the 43-volt, like I mentioned. And, or I don't know if I mentioned that yet or not. The 5-volt was shorted to the 43-volt. So 43 volts went everywhere 5 volts was supposed to go, on every board. So when we got it, the solenoid board was out of it because apparently it had a serious problem, and the lamp driver board was out of it because apparently it had a serious problem. This was still plugged in, and if you look right in the middle of the board, there's a chip that's blown slap apart. So, and there's a fire mark here and everything else. So this board got juiced just like the other ones did, and I got to tell you, on all of the other boards, every single chip was bad. So on this one, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 chips. So it's not the end of the world, but it ain't great. And one of the problems that we have is this chip here. This is a PROM, actually. Right? Well, the problem is these PROMs are very hard to find and burn because they are one-time burn only, and they haven't made them since, like, 1980 or so. So you have to find one and then burn it. They're not erasable. And You can't tell if they've been burned. So it's really very hard to take care of that problem. If you really know your stuff, there are some people out there that can do it. So Steph at hobbyroms.com, for instance, can burn us a new one. We can get some new ones. But what we're going to do today is try to fabricate a replacement. So I'll tell you a little bit about how this board works, and then you can see why that's possible. I have to plug in the camera. Okay, so as you can see, or you should be able to see, there's no microprocessor on this board. So this thing is just a peripheral soundboard. The way these originally, the pinball machines back in, let's say, the 50s, they had sound in the way of bells and chimes. So if you landed in a saucer, the game would start the score motor running. It would score some points, maybe 500 points. The 100-point relay would pulse a coil 5 times that was on the chime bar that would go ding, 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 ding. And that's how sound originally worked, right? So whenever they went from EM pinballs to solid-state pinballs, originally they just kept using the chime boxes. So because the MPU needed to control coils anyway, because it had to control the kickers, the pop bumpers, the little solenoid that eject the ball from the hole in our example. So it already needed to control coils, so it was really easy for whenever they made the new MPU board that was solid state to work the same way. So whenever the ball lands in the hole, now a microprocessor on the MPU says, increment the counter 500 points on the display, and then it also says make the coil 5 times on the chime bar. And so it would pull in the coil, ding, 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 5 times, and then it would say, kick the ball out of the hole. And it would kick the ball out of the hole onto the playfield. Okay? So this is their early soundboard. Now, the Gottlieb ones are even better. I wish I had one here. I probably do, but I don't have it close by. Gottlieb's first soundboard was called the Beep Boop soundboard. It was about this big. It didn't have a power supply on it. Well, I guess it must have had a power supply on it. Maybe it got voltage from external. I can't remember. But it just had 3 little circuits, and it would just turn on a transistor and some resistors and stuff that made like a frequency that was a sound. And there were 3 different ones, just like there were 3 different chime bars. And it almost sounded like the chime bars, kind of, So it would just go boom, 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 boom. And they called it the Beep Boop board because there were 3 different tones, right? Very primitive stuff. But it was triggered by the solenoid lines that don't send voltage, they just ground voltage, right? So it was just the solenoid lines were grounding the 3 little circuits, and you could actually unplug the chime bars and wire up that soundboard and it would work to replace it. All of the code about when to fire the chimes, how much to fire the chimes, was in the game board's code, like in the ROM code on the game board. So it could play little primitive melodies, just little simple stuff, and it was stuff that had 3 notes, so it was limited by that and stuff too. And that's just how it was made. Well, then Bally came up with this, which was a little more sophisticated. So this has noise, for instance. I don't know how much noise, but so when you're trying to create synthesized or synthetic, music, basically, or tones, if you have the ability to create noise and then manipulate it, that really helps. So the noise could just be going wee, right? And if you play with it and run it through different resistors and stuff and trigger it and turn it on and off, you can get it to go and just make all kinds of stuff. And so it's fascinating, right? So all of that is controlled by the MPU, because the original design of the games that use that MPU was to control the coils that run the sound. So what they're doing is, instead of controlling the coils, they're just sending the signals through here, and the same thing happens. So if if it if the ball lands in the saucer and it needs to trigger 5 times, it's just triggering a sound on this board 5 times, and then it's plugged into a speaker down here, and you hear it. So these were not a standalone computer. They were like a peripheral thing on the side. And the little chips on the MPU are called the PIA chips, Peripheral Interface Adapter chips. That's one explanation for that abbreviation, acronym. So all that to say, these do not have a microprocessor. They're kind of just like a sound bank, kind of. You can look at it a million ways. I'm sure there's some more proper technology. Like always, I'm giving you the layman's example of it. Right? So you have a power supply down here, speaker here, you've got some filtering and stuff going on here, you've got volume adjust here, and then this sustain adjustment is really cool. So if you turn this, the way it's, and I'll show you the schematics here in a minute, the way that it's designed, it can make it very staccato, so boop, 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 or it can make it way drawn out where it's boo, 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 boo. It's literally sustained like you would have on a piano or on an organ or something, the sustain pedal. It's just very cool, very cool. So this is a LM380N. That's going to be a preamp, I guess. Well, we don't need to look at it right now because of what we're going to do here in a minute. But all of that to say, the way this was designed without the microprocessor was it still had a ROM with read-only memory in it. This is like the smallest possible chip, though. There's hardly any memory in this thing. Now, I didn't go to school for all of that, so I can't tell you exactly how many bits and bytes and all that are in there, but it ain't much. So a 2716 ROM is about the smallest that I ever deal with. There are 2708s, which are half that size. And then, of course, it goes up through there. Well, these PROMs are much smaller than that. And it's because they don't really contain instruction, per se, or even code, per se. What's in the chip is just some values. So I don't completely know how it works, but basically this, it's given an address, or I guess it's an address. We'll have to look at the schematics. It's given an address, and it pulls out a number. And so it's used basically to control the tone, right? So the melody that's played, so if it goes boom, 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 right? The MPU is actually doing that. Nothing on here is making that happen. It's being told to do that through the outside, through the peripheral interface adapter, right? So when it goes boom, boom, it needs to know what those two notes are, right? So it's set up that it uses, that external thing is telling it number 12, number 14. So it goes boom, boom, because that's what's stored in 12 and 14. Now, it's not a WAV file or anything, so it's not a recording of that. It's like a number. So I don't know exactly how it works, obviously, but you get the gist of it, right? It's not storing a recording of the file, and it's not storing any melody or anything like that. You know, on a piano, you have what is it? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So you have 7 notes, and then I guess you've got 5 sharps or 5 flats. So 12 notes, whatever. So this needs to know what the notes are and what octave they are, basically. And that's just all that it does. So if we'll just make something up. This is not exact. This is just an idea. If to make boom, you need a frequency of 20,000, vibrations a minute, a second, or whatever. 20,000 a second. Boom. The 20,000 is what's stored in here. So they're using whatever that little bit is or whatever to control that measurement, right? And then if the next note, so boom, boom, if the next one's 12,000 vibrations a second, that's what the second note is. So if it's telling it position 12 and position 14, it's basically drawing that out of this PROM. So all of that to say, if you can wrap your mind around it, whatever the simplest way to do this is, whatever the simplest thing that can be stored in this ROM is, that's what's in the ROM. There's hardly anything in there, right? So I can't burn this myself. I don't have any of them. I don't even want to get any of them because, like I said, you can't even tell if they're burnt or not. You'd have to check every one of them. I'd have to have the specific stuff to check every one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make an adapter board. So I'm just going to make a little board, a little piggyback board to put in that spot, and I'm going to wire up a 2716 to it. So it'll be a much larger chip, much larger than we need, but I'm going to replace that with that chip. Now, one of the things that one of the problems you run into is, as I understand, these proms are very fast, or much faster than a 2716 chip. But in this kind of use, it doesn't matter. Like, this thing is not breaking land speed records or anything. They're just using it because it was cheaper and it was smaller. They just needed the smallest little thing that could carry any kind of information. So they had this chip. There's actually different versions of it, different ROMs of it, depending on the game that it was in. Because in one game, you may want to go in, boom, 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 boom. And, like I said, the MPU code can control all of that and make all the melodies and stuff. On the Dolly Parton game, for instance, whenever you hit start, it goes boom, 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 boom. It plays a little. It's a little melody of one of her songs. Right? It's amazing. I don't know that it uses this board. It may have used the later one, but. And again, that's in the game code, and they just kept it over there in the game code because it just worked that way for them, because it had been designed that way, right? And they did that for quite a while, where the soundboards were completely separate, really. They were their own little thing, right? So that's kind of what's going on here. So they made another ROM, though, that changed basically the octave of the notes. So instead of boom, 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 if you've got the wrong one in there, it might have completely different frequencies where it doesn't even line up. So it would play the same melody, but the notes would be wrong. So if you've got the wrong board in it, it'll go something like or whatever. It's just completely. It's not even. I can't even fake it, but it's not even in the same position. So if it's doon 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 doon, it might go doon 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 doon. All the notes are just in the wrong spot, or it's the wrong octave, or whatever. So you get my point. All that to say, this is a very simple board, and we're just going to make a simple little ROM to replace that ROM. Now, they also make brand new boards just like this, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our buddy GTO. So GTO, the mysterious gentleman by the name of GTO, I thought his name was Guido whenever I first saw him. He makes a completely brand new soundboard for these machines. And you can update it where you've got background music. He's able to get different sounds out of the pop bumpers for anything. For instance, he can trigger extra stuff. You can change all of the sounds and put whatever you want in it. You can put movie call-outs and all that kind of stuff. So I'll put a link down below. You probably want to check his stuff out. It's a really nice board. We've used it before. I kind of want to fix this one, though, just to see if I can, because we've fixed every other board, with the exception of the solenoid board, which is now acting up. But we fixed every other board, so why not fix this one? All right. So that brings us to the next part of the video. Often on our channel, we get people, and if you've got a YouTube channel, you know about this. We get people wanting us to do reviews or sponsorships and stuff like that. And, we hardly ever do that, because usually it's not a good fit. So, like, if I want to tell you about a language learning software or something, you don't want to hear about that. It's not pertinent to pinball machines. One thing I've been wanting to do, though, is I've been wanting to get a digital microscope. I've got at the house a digital microscope. I bought a Tomlov digital microscope a while back. And the reason I need one at the house is because I've been working on watches. So, watches they're this big, and they have little tiny screws in them that you can barely see. and to the naked eye, you cannot really work on them. So you need some kind of magnification. So, you know, traditionally jewelers would wear like a loop and so that they could magnify everything. But these digital microscopes are really cool because they make everything so big you can see every little thread on the screws, and you know, it makes working on watches a lot easier. Now, the problem that you run into though is on a lot of them you can't work under them. So if they're way down like here, it's like a traditional microscope, like a scientific microscope, there's no room to work on anything. Like I can't put a screwdriver under there. There's just not enough room. Especially, let's just act like this is a jeweler's screwdriver. It's a screw, but you know. So you know you got a little bit of room, but then the microscope's showing the top of the screwdriver and all that, and it don't work right. So you kind of need one that's got some room. Now, when you're doing soldering work, like we're about to do, you run into an even bigger problem because the soldering iron's bigger. So look at the room you need to actually work on something. I'll do it like they show in the videos. In the pictures, this is how they always show it. So you need so much room. I mean, a foot would be tight. You need a lot of room for a soldering iron, you know. So you kind of need one that's either that mounts really high or is on a arm where it hangs over everything. So Tomlov contacted me and was like, hey, would you like to check out our microscope? And I said, well, I might want to check out your microscope. So I'd been wanting a microscope for here at the shop. And so they sent me one. We're going to look at it. And then what I want to do is I want to show these chips up close that burnt up. And then also we can look at the dates and the manufacturers and stuff. Not the manufacturers, but the identification, and just make sure I've got them all here before we start swapping every single one of them out. I'm curious though, if I look on the schematics, I wonder if some of these don't run off 5 volts. If there's any that don't run off 5 volts, they'll be fine because only the 5 volt line got fried. So we'll check the schematics and stuff. But first, let's check out our little microscope we got in and just see if it looks like it's good quality or not. Ooh, we're going fancy. None of my videos are 4K, if you notice, so this might be more than I need. But, you know, this is a representation of it. So you can see, it's got a clamp, so I can put it here on my workbench. And then it has an arm, so we can hang it over things, and that's why we've got space to work under it. So, it's going to be interesting. It looks like maybe it has a remote. So it's the Tomlov 4K Digital Microscope TM4K.AF Flex. Autofocus digital microscope. And I suppose that's what it looks like. That's the one that's got the stand and not the little thing. I wonder if maybe it's got both. That'd be kind of cool. All right, so let me pull all the stuff out and we'll see. Okay, so I'm going through the manual, and you know, of course, it just shows you with nice pictures how to put it together. And it's fairly simple. The one thing I was worried about was I didn't know how well it would attach to just the edge of a table. Like we're just using an old desk as our workbench. But actually it attaches really well. And it's solid. You know, I mean, they probably don't want you doing this, but you could use that as like a handicap support. No, forget I said that. You can't do that. All right. And then it has lots of pivots, so it's easy to move here, move here, move here, move here. I mean, pretty cool. And of course I have room to go as well. So let's check our clearance here. So this is pretty much all the way up. Yeah, so you can use a full-size soldering iron with no problem. And really, you know, you wouldn't want it much higher than that. I guess if you put, well, Yeah, you wouldn't want it much higher than that. You probably don't even want it this high, so we'll probably end up taking it back down. It also has these cable protector clamps you can put on it to route the cables back so you can plug it up. I'm going to probably, I don't know if I'll permanently attach it or what, but if I do, I'll probably put it over there. I think I've got enough that it'll, let's see. I mean, you get a pretty good length out of it. You can also turn this in the pivot. So like if you don't like it like that, if you loosen any screws, this is just sitting in there, so you can just twist it. And look at the rigidity of it. It's not cheap. They did a lot of cool things too, like where this goes in, you've got this nut to hold it on, but this is also threaded. So that's threaded. I mean, you can see the nut is off and it's still hanging in there. So they, I like it. They did a good job so far. We'll see what the quality's like when we actually use it, though. All right, so let me finish setting it up, and then we'll turn her on. All right, so I've got it all hooked up on my bench. I didn't plug the ring light in yet. I don't really use ring lights, but maybe if we need it, we will, but it's mounted. Whenever you mount it, it says don't cover up your button for your focus. So let's see if we can get her to turn on. See how intuitive it is. I looked through more than a microscope. I looked through the manual a little bit, but it looks like it's kind of, oh, what happened? Did I just turn on the lights? Oh, look at that. Would you look at that? Fancy. I accidentally did that. All right, let's see if we can focus it at all. It has an autofocus as well. All right, so it's a little dark. Turn up our light. Now, it may be, I've seen this on my one at home. Sometimes it's better to use different lights than the ones that are lights inside. This ring light I do not have turned on. It's not plugged in. So the lights are all coming from in here. Sometimes though, depending on what you're working on, it is better to have these. On my other one from Tomlov, it's a little platform and it has little lights on arms, and so you can use those, or you can use the one on the camera like we're doing right now. I'm gonna hit AF for autofocus and see what it does. That worked well. Okay, so let's see what we're working with here. I kind of want to see that one that's blown up. All right. So a lot of the text has gone off of it, but that's our prom. I wonder if there's a chance that the prom survived. What do you think? Could the 5 volts, can it take 43 volts? Okay, so let's try this. Let's try lowering the boom so we get closer. Which is easy to do, of course. Which is going to make the image larger. And the AF is selected, so it's just automatically focusing. There we go. Well, that's a little more like it. I can actually read that. So MMI 6331-1J E72918, which I recognize as a Bally part number. That's just kind of how they did their part numbers. And then the 17111, I don't know what that would be, but then it says 7804, or does that say 79? Oh, yeah, 7904. So that was probably made the 4th week of 1979, or the 4th month of 1979 was when that chip was made. Look at the detail on the jumper there next to it, the B jumper. So that's what I'm saying. A microscope is actually pretty helpful. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to record this on the screen, and then we'll see if it's got any audio. I don't know if it's got a microphone or not. The one that I have at the house, it does have a microphone, but it doesn't pick up. It's not really designed for voice recording, so it doesn't sound like I sound right now, which might be a benefit to some of y'all. Some of y'all may love that. But I'm going to turn on, I'm going to record, and then I'll try doing vocal stuff, little vocal tricks. I'll try talking, and then we'll see if that actually works. Okay, so I just put that clip, it's unedited, so you can see if it was recording video or not, and then we're going to go into the menu and see for ourselves if it'll play on here. Playback. Okay, so I don't think there's a speaker on it, but there may have been a microphone on it, so we'll check. It doesn't necessarily matter, it's just if you're using it for recording videos. So it would be useful to me if it can record audio, but you know, if you're working on something, not necessarily. Okay, so I looked on the computer, it does not have audio, so it just doesn't have a microscope in there. My one at home actually does, so I think but it's not a really great microphone, so I think they probably, to put in a couple of the other features, took that off. So maybe in the future they'll make one with that, but again, unless you're recording videos with it where you're trying to put them on YouTube or something with nice crystal clear audio, you're probably not going to be able to get that out of a microscope, you know, at the same time. It did record the video very well though, so you get nice video out of it, as you saw earlier. And again, you know, a lot of people get on me because I don't use a separate microphone for my videos in the first place. So that'll be all right. Okay, so I want to show you one other thing. Oh, and the autofocus, by the way, you can turn off. So you can set it on manual focus, and these are preset focuses. So you can set those, you know, if you're always doing the same thing, and you just, you know, you've always got it set at the same focal point, you can just preset it like that, right? Okay, now you can see as I wave my hand over it that it's getting darker, and the autofocus is fighting it and trying to get it doing its thing and all this, right? That's because I've got all of the lights turned off. So I'm going to show you again the one here. So that's pretty bright. And now I have turned on the ring light, or plugged in the ring light, and it's really bright because it's just a separate light source. It's plugged into the wall, like it's not even using USB. So you can get this super bright if you weren't happy with the brightness level before. And if you just look at it with the naked camera here in my hand, you can see that it's, you know, it's lit up everything. So pretty cool. I like it, Tomlov. Very cool. So I hope you enjoyed seeing the damage to the board. Let me know what you think. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove every one of these chips and put a socket in its place. I guess I should show the back of the board too. You know, this would be good for looking for solder bridges and things like that whenever you're doing repairs. So I recommend it. I like it. If you would like one of these, there is a link down below the video. You can check it out. They're not really that expensive either. You'd be surprised at the price. You know, a sign of good quality, maybe it's just expected nowadays, but I always thought a sign of good quality is that whenever they give you the tools you need to put the thing together. and you get an HDMI cable. And it did have the SD card. So I like it. Very cool. But we got to get working on this thing. We got to get working on this thing, people. So let's look at the schematics real quick and see if there's anything that 5 volts wouldn't have fried. So here are the schematics. Solenoid address 1, solenoid address 2. Or is that 3? Solenoid address 3. No, it's A, B, C, D, and then E. Okay, and then here is your 5 volts coming in. That's what was the problem. Anything that touches is schlonged. Here is the ground for the 5 volts. Doesn't really give us a problem, I don't think. And then check this out. U7, which is the 555 timer, which is being used to create the clock, is actually ran by the 12 volt. So, yeah. Gotcha, sucker. I saved a 555 chip. You thought you fried every chip in the game. You didn't fry the 555 chip on the soundboard. What about that? Now what? All right. And then the Q1 tip 20C. I wish I had these, a paper copy of these. Runs off 43 volt. Right, and then they've got some Zener diodes down here, and it's making it 12 volt. I guess that's a 12 volt regulator or something. Well, I don't know. I don't think that is a regulator, but whatever. It doesn't have anything to do with the 5 volts, so we don't have to worry about that transistor, which I think is the big one. Well, I got the board right here. Let me see. Yeah, that's the big transistor on the heatsink. So 5 volt doesn't touch it either. This just keeps getting better and better. All right, so moving right along, if I can. I hate these PDF programs. I hate them. They're evil. There's not a good one out there. They're all horrible. They're god-awful. Okay, so the amp, or yeah, I guess it's actually the amp. The 340 is also not run by 5 volts. It's ran by 12 volts. So there's the speaker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pins, all running off 12 volt. I think I'm right about that. Yeah, there's pin 1 is connected to ground, and there's pin 14 is connected to 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, it's a 14 pin chip. Okay. Oh, and maybe this is it back here as well. Oh, you can't read these freaking schematics. Yeah, so none of this is connected to 5. So that would have got away from it too. And by the way, it's not, the 5 didn't go through any of the chips. It was just the voltage source for the chips. So if there's like this is a great example. This 4042. It's being ran by 5 volts, so it's fried. So U2 is done. And actually, that is the one with the hole blown in it. No, that's U1. U2 looks all right, but looks are deceiving. But all of the outputs on it didn't get the same voltage. It wouldn't have went down like that. So, or I hope not. Oh, I hope not. Hopefully not. But yeah, so it's running off 5. This U1E is likely running off 5. If they don't show the power and the ground leg of the chip, usually that's just typical 5 and ground. U1 is running off 5, so it was fried. Oh, this is the same. So U1 here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, so this chip is this chip, and it's done. Perhaps that's the one with the hole blown in it. Yes, that's the one with the hole blown in it. Also, U5 is in really bad shape. U2 looks all right, but it's directly connected to 5, so it's probably screwed. U3 directly connected to 5. It's screwed. Is that our prom? Yeah, that's our prom. It'd be cool to get away with that one, but we're probably not going to. U4 directly connected to 5. U5 directly connected to 5. U11 directly connected to 5. And that's about it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's still a couple more that I don't see on here. Whatever that ended up being. All right, so like I said, I'm gonna put some sockets on the ones that we know are bad. I guess I'll save the 741. Oh yeah, that's different. That's a 741 and that's a 380. So both of those are fine. The 741, the 380, and the 555 are all fine. And whatever this is, if that's a separate one, that's fine. All right, I'll look at it a little closer and see if I can track it all down. But clearly, several of them need sockets. All right, we know those 5 are bad because they're directly connected to the 5 volt. And this prom likely is too. I mean, it's directly connected to the 5 volt as well. But sometimes, since it's a different type of chip, some of them are more, you know, they can handle it. Now, can it handle 43 freaking volts? I don't know. Maybe it was just for a second and it got away with it. But we're going to try it because that's going to be our issue. Okay, so I put in 5 sockets. Now, 2 interesting things about this board. If you look, there is the 5 volts. So there's where our problem was. It's that right there. So that is where the 5 volts comes in. So we can actually confirm what the 5 volts went to. So there's a jumper here, and then this traces 5 volts. So it went to U2, U1, and U3, which is our prom. All right, so it provided the power to all 3 of those. Okay, when it gets to here, there's another jumper, and it jumps over to here. So then it provides power to U4, 5. Provides power to U5 on 2 different pins, and then it runs over here to U4. Okay, and it also, so that's those, it also runs down here and provides power to U11, and this is a capacitor. So if you go back the other way, you've got some more connections to U1. You've got another big capacitor here that it's connected to. And then this is a jumper. So it jumps down to here. After it jumps down to here, it goes through a resistor down to here and attaches to a couple things. But the resistor likely shielded it. Okay, so all that to say, the timer chip, the 555, did not get 5 volts. The preamp did not give 5 volts. The amp did not give 5 volts. And this voltage regulator here did not give 5 volts. So that leaves U8. That was that little one down there that on the bottom of the schematics just before the amp section that I couldn't read. Is U8. And it just seemed kind of weird. They're only using 3 pins of it or whatever, right? But if you look at U8, now it's a Motorola part number. So we're going to have to figure out, that's the part numbers that Motorola just made up for Bally because they were trying to keep people from copying their PCBs. But everybody's figured it out many years ago. Now this is a one-sided board, so there's no traces on the top. Okay, other than those jumpers. All right. So if you look at the bottom of that mystery chip, one whole side of the chip has no connections at all on it, and none of the pins are connected to each other. So one side of the chip is completely useless. Now the other side of the chip has 1, 2, 3, 4 pins connected. That's it. And actually, 2 of them are tied together. So that's pretty wild. And that also does not get 5 volts. So we got a little luckier than I thought that there's only 5 chips and possibly a 6th one, likely a 6th one, that are bad. I'm also going to, well, I was going to say I'm going to go ahead and change the caps, but I kind of want to try it with bad caps in it, just so we can see what shape the thing was in without the power problem that we had. So I'm going to repopulate these 5 chips, and then we'll try it in the game and just see if it does anything. Oh, and in case you were wondering, look, it just folds right out of the way. So I was able to mount it over there on the corner. And it's going to, let's see here. Let's see. So we got a good little swivel going on there. Plenty of room. So I think I may just not use the ring light though, because the regular light was plenty powerful for what I do. And this mat came with it as well. So that's kind of cool. All right, so check that out down below if you are interested. I'm happy to get it, and I like that I can just store it out of the way over here on the edge of the bench and just pull it out whenever I actually need it. All right, folks, I got the chips repopulated. Prom is still a question. I resoldered the connector on the back just to make sure it had a good connection on all the pins. And we're just going to turn it on and see what happens. I checked, there's no short between the 5 and the ground or the 5 and the 43, so it likely will not do anything, but we'll see. Okay, I think what's going on is everything's the same tone, which it usually means that the ROM's bad. We'll see if we hit some stuff, if we can get it to start. Weren't we having problems where it wouldn't kick out? All right, so I put a credit on it, and it actually did kick the ball out. So we got something maybe heat related with the solenoids, but the volume is working. But if you hear, there's a hum. Now I know a lot of y'all are completely, I don't know the best word about it. You lose your mind if there's the slightest little hum, but keep in mind we haven't replaced any of the capacitors yet, so that'll quiet it a little bit. But you know what? There's going to end up being just a little bit of hum because these were made for a noisy arcade, so you're just going to have to deal with that. Okay, so let's try some different ones. I think they're all doing the same noise. Yep. Okay, so everything's scoring the same, making the same noise. Okay, so check this out though. So that's the one of the buttons. If I change this sustain, let's turn it to the left. Now it's much shorter. If I turn it way back the other way, you can actually get to where you can hear it. So basically it never turns off if you've got it too far that way. And if you go extreme with it, like way down, is very short. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the ROM. Let me show you on the schematics kind of how it works. Again, I don't completely know, but I can show you on the schematics why it would be the ROM. So here's the output again. It travels through a couple of those. Here is the signal coming in. It comes from over here. And here is the edge connector. So the only way that it controls it is with these solenoid lines, like we mentioned. These ones down here are voltages. 5 volt ground, and 43 volt ground. Okay, so that's all it's got. It's got 5 addresses, and then there is a solenoid bank select line. Right, so I guess that could make it where it has 10 addresses. So they come in, and all 5 of those lines, well, 4 of those lines, go to this 4042 chip. The MC14042 quad transparent latch is constructed with MOS, P-channel, and N-channel enhancement mode devices in a single monolithic structure. Each latch has a separate data input, but all 4 latches share a common clock. The clock polarity, high or low, used to strobe data through the latches can be reversed using the polarity input. Information present at the data input is transferred to outputs Q and not Q during the clock level, which is determined by the polarity input. When the polarity input is in the logic 0 state, data is transferred during the low clock level, and when the polarity input is in the logic 1 state, the transfer occurs during the high clock level. Okay, so it's just a latch. So it tells it to do something, it moves it from the input to the output. Very simple. So all 4 of the outputs from that chip, so all 4 of the inputs become the outputs, and then all 4 of the outputs from that chip go to the PROM. And then the 5th one that wasn't connected to that just comes over here up to the PROM. And so those come in on what it's referring to as A, B, C, D, and E. Who would have thought it? The chip select is grounded. The voltage was 5 volts, which explains why the thing's fried. And then we've got this, the pin 8, or I think that's 8, whatever that is ground. And then we've got this line here, which is, those are all outputs. Okay, so let me see if I can look up the part number for that PROM so we can get a little bit of an idea of how it works. All right, so here's the data sheet. It says the 82S123, which is what this is, are field programmable, which means that custom patterns are immediately available by following the generic one fusing procedure. The devices are supplied with all outputs at logical low. Outputs are programmed to a logical high level at any specific address by fusing a link matrix. So basically, I was saying it's as simple as possible. It's just a decoder, basically. So it's depending on the addresses, it makes one of the 8 outputs high. And so that they're using that to control the sound that you get out of the board. So, you know, when I was saying if it needs to be 20,000, blah, 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 it's not even, it doesn't even have the ability to do that. It's just saying if this pin and this pin being high create a 20,000 frequency or whatever, then we'll do that with this address at this address. Whoa. Right. So it's just basically a decoder. So the information that's contained in it is basically this address equals this data. Which I guess is really how all ROMs work, but it's just super, super simple. 256 bit. So that's what we're trying to replace. Okay, so I've got these little breadboards. So, ooh, I didn't see that one in there. Hold on a second. There may be a change of plans. No, that won't work. Not enough pins on it. Well, I guess you could do it sideways. I don't think it would work. Okay. So I've rigged this little baby up. Now, it would be better actually to have this socket on top of these legs, but it's pretty complex for me since I haven't done many of these. I put it out a little bit so I can run little jumper wires and have a little more room. The down part of that, the bad part of that is you're creating a weighted thing where it's a little off. So I accidentally counterbalanced it by not having the socket fine. Look, folks, it's going to be fine, okay? You perfectionists about to drive me crazy. Okay, so I'm going to figure out where we need to put jumpers. Basically, we're going to use a 2716, and this is pin 1 down here, and this is pin 1 of the prom. So I know for instance that pin 8 of the prom is ground. So we're going to run a jumper. The socket is wired for ground, so ground will be right there, and we're going to run a jumper from ground to where it needs to go on the prom here, or the EPROM here. And I know there's a bunch of unused pins on here that we'll probably tie to ground as well. Some of the address lines aren't used and things like that, just so that they don't float around. But I've got to put, I guess it's 20, is it 24? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 24 jumper lines on it. Ooh. Maybe I should just call Steph at hobbyroms.com and have him just mail me one. I've got some other boards too that I need them for, so I really want to test this just to see if it's doable, and then we may be able to move the socket over top of this one. If this was here, you could just jumper to which pins you want, but part of the problem is I can't solder on the top, and then if I solder on the bottom, I'm using the wrong kind of standoffs where it's not easy to do that. So I kind of want to be able to what I might do, I think I will. Well, I think what I'll do is I will solder this pin to the one next to it, where it's all wider. Plus, well, yeah, we'll do it like that. And then on the back, I can run a wire. Well, is that going to interfere? I should have enough clearance. I run a wire from the solder pad next to it over to the actual pin of the EPROM. We'll see what we can do. Wish me luck. Alright, so it took me about an hour. I didn't use wire wrap. I used like regular, we've got a whole bunch of regular 26 gauge wire or something like that. And I think I've got it right. I just grounded all the unused address pins. I had to mess with the chip select and a little bit of that stuff, but most of it was just pretty straightforward. Address 0, address 1, address 2, 3, 4, and then the data lines are actually the outputs. So we'll see. Now I got to burn a ROM, and then we'll try it in the game. I'm not inventing this. I mean, other people have done the same exact thing. Okay, so I have mounted the board in there with nylon washers behind the 2 screws. There is a little metal mounting bracket that goes on, but if you look, the ground goes all the way around. And if you, sometimes if they're buzzing or something, if you isolate that from that bracket with some nylon washers, it'll help that. I noticed earlier when I moved it, the buzz went away when it wasn't touching the bracket anymore. It actually shipped with those little nylon washers on it. So, let's see what we got. Hopefully this sucker works. It ought to work. I've seen other people online say that it works. And I don't think the speed matters since they're using it on a soundboard. You saw how it's being used. I don't think speed comes into play here. Keep your fingers crossed. I think we got it, folks. I think we got it. Let me clean it up a little bit, put the back glass back on it, and then we'll play a game. See if everything works. Seems to work just fine, people. If you have a bad prom, burn a 2716. Oh, we lost it. Oh, 5-ball. Cool. That's the Bally sounds we all know and love, or I love. Some of y'all I'm not so sure about. Lost it. Last ball. Missed it. Ooh. Let's try and get that little spinner shot going. Missed it again. Missed it again. There we go. Gotta love a good spinner shot and a good drop target shot. There we are. All right, folks, so there you go. Got the soundboard working. I still got a few things I got to do to it, but I'm pretty happy with the progress so far. Little more touch-ups and she'll be ready to go. So if you would like to see another classic Bally, check this one out. Hope you've enjoyed the series.